Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin, Superspreading Bitcoin 2022. Today is December the 30th, 2021. Strong hand, long-term thinking. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. Unconfiscatable. I'm offended by selling. This is where the big boys play. One day closer to an all-time high. Oh, this is only the beginning. I am pumped for 2022. I can hardly say 2022. I'm not used to it. We're like 27 months away from the 2024 halving. Hello, my elite friends. I'm bringing you This Week in Bitcoin. The best freaking guests in the space are joining me this week in Bitcoin. We're going to talk about the year that was, the year that's to come. We've got Adam Hodlberry here. We got Deniz here. And we got Reed here. All right, dudes. If you guys got questions, we got answers. You can type in BitcoinMeister. You can do a super chat. You do that super chat. We only need $70 more to get another one Bitcoin show. Yeah, you guys fund those. But we do this Week in Bitcoin every week, thanks to the great people at Bitcoin Magazine and the Bitcoin 2022 conference, which is coming up on April 6th to 9th of 2022. Who knows if these guys are going to be there? Some of them were there last year. We're going to talk about it. Adam10. You can use that as your discount code. Link to below. Get those tickets in Miami. Oh, I'm loving Miami when I'm down there. I can't wait to be down there again. Bitcoin 2022, April 6th to 9th. We're going to talk about that. But let's talk about, first of all, we're going to talk about 2021 because it's coming to an end. It was a pretty glorious time. Taproot started. El Salvador happened. Who would have been able to guess El Salvador at the beginning of 2021? That's what I love about life. That's what I love about 2022. We're going to be at the end of 2022 and be saying, oh, I could have never predicted XYZ. I mean, maybe there's going to be a huge country that's going to adopt Bitcoin and put it in its treasury reserves. Who knows? Maybe there's going to be a real ETF instead of the other ETF that we got this year. Maybe we're going to be at the 6-digit realm. Maybe there's going to be a huge crash. You don't know. I'm so excited. So, Adam, we're going to start with you. What were your highlights for 2021?
I liked the all-time high, which was very nice. Definitely a highlight. Also, I liked that they implemented Taproot. I'm very excited about that. Although I feel like a little let down by Taproot because not that many people are using it. It's not like part of everybody's daily Bitcoin usage, but I'm very excited about what's going to happen in 2022 with Taproot.
Well, you bring up Taproot and you said you were a little bit let down, and I thought it was kind of overhyped too. I knew people would not, some people think it was going to be the savior of the world and it happened, and the hardcore people were excited, but that's another thing about this space. Well, that's evolved over time. The hardcore people make up less and less of a percentage of the entire cryptocurrency space and even the Bitcoin space. So it was a good little change there. But yeah, who's using it right now? And did it make that big of a difference? And maybe in 2022 there'll be more implementations. People will do more things that are intertwined with it. One does not know the future, but. What did you think about the El Salvador? I mean, what was your biggest story?
El Salvador was definitely a big story. I remember where I was when I heard I was at Bitcoin 2021, standing next to Surfer Jim, and I was outside right in front of the half pipe, and I think that's definitely. It's funny because at the time, the announcement was that they were planning on making it the currency, but it was just a bill that was put forward, so it didn't actually happen at that point. What followed, like, it could have been shot down by their congressional body, but I think it's definitely as I've thought about it, that could be probably the biggest story as far as I'm concerned. And I think that in 2022 you'll have at least one more do follow their lead.
All right, that's a good prediction right there. Pound that like button, everybody. Remember, link to below. You can join us at the conference next year, April 6th. So I also was outside at the conference when the news broke, and it didn't really hit me until I was back, just thinking about it, because it was kind of surreal that all these people outside, that people were skating where you were standing. I was just on, I don't know. I was trying to stay cool, I guess. And we weren't even inside. I mean, the announcement was made on the inside. There were big TVs outside. Deniz, do you remember that when that happened? What you were doing?
Yeah, I was in that room, I guess, when Jack announced it. It was I don't know. You could feel it in the audience, I guess, because they were seeing it happen in real time. So I don't know. I got kind of emotional, just a little bit. I was like, oh man, I didn't see that coming at all. Like until maybe like the next halving or something like that. So I don't know. It hit me pretty quickly.
I will say this. Adam mentioned something that is obvious to some. Bitcoin got to its all-time high this year. A lot of people have short-term memories and they're sad because it's under 50K now. It was almost 69,000 friggin' dollars. What I was pretty sure about this year is that we would hit an all-time high, just like we did in 2017. And it was around the same time of year. It was November the 9th, which was corresponded to December of 2017. So that was one of my highlights of this year that Adam briefly mentioned. And people just kind of play that off and forget it now because they're sad. I mean, at the beginning of this year, we just reached 30,000 at the first time. People, we reach one milestone number and then it's on to something else. You 58K gang, you know all about that, Deniz. So what was your highlight of the year? Or just bring up some things you thought were huge.
I thought it was awesome that China banned Bitcoin, like kind of
Again,
maybe officially ban it. I don't know. You can't actually ban it, but they officially banned it by getting rid of all the miners. They're getting rid of all the exchanges right now, and price doesn't really seem to. I mean, it affected it. I mean, everyone was blaming Elon, but it wasn't necessarily. I don't think it was Elon's fault that price went down. It was just like in due time, it was bound to happen. But I thought that was pretty cool. Bitcoin's still here. Hash is moving over to the US. Some people are saying it's bad that it's moving to the US, but I'd rather have it in the US than China any day.
Yep.
It's great that it is. The ESG narrative picked up. That's part of some of the screaming that says it's bad moving to the United States. I can't see a reason why it's bad moving to the United States other than these liars that say it's going to use up all the energy and kill the world and all that. I mean, that's something we have to talk about. This was the year, and will the ESG narrative be bigger next year? But a very good point about surviving freaking China FUD. This was the ultimate China FUD year. A lot of FUD got recycled this year, but man, did that one get slapped in the face because, yeah, Bitcoin is still here, and it reached its all-time high after the China FUD. Let's put that in perspective. So someone was trying to say something during your thing, Deniz. Who was saying, yeah.
I was just going to add that the hash rate dropped significantly. I think 50% of the hash rate came offline within a month or two, and then it rebounded fairly quickly as well. So from May, it dropped through July, and then came back up through the last few months of this year. Most of that hash rate, it seems like, went to Kazakhstan and the U.S., but it's not as if the U.S. adopted all of it. Canada got a small chunk as well. So I think it's very bullish for the decentralization of the network that seemingly 50% of it at least was in China, and that's no longer like a majority of hash rate in that country. So I think that's bullish.
Oh yeah. And by the way, Elon Musk got his name dropped there. He joined the party this year and became one of the biggest names in cryptocurrency. We'll talk about that. But I was reminded, since we've got Reed right here, you weren't in Miami, but you went to actually El Salvador. So what did you see down there?
Yeah. I went down for the Lightning Conference, which happened in November, and learned a lot about Bitcoin as payment. So I come traditionally from a background of Bitcoin as savings and haven't really used Bitcoin as payments in my everyday life. And it was really, really neat to see people using it for payments, and then myself included, buying lunch with it, buying small trinkets off the street with Bitcoin. I think the main thing I'm really bullish on coming out of El Salvador is not like the government wallet. Chivo doesn't work at all. So the main benefit of Bitcoin being declared as legal tender down there is not that the government is going to build a great wallet for people, but much rather that the government advertised Bitcoin and has given it free PR so that other private companies are able to go down and build really successful wallets. So the Bitcoin Beach wallet is one example of a really cool community banking wallet where it's really easy to onboard people into Bitcoin. All they need is a phone number. They don't hold their own private keys, which has its own problems. But in terms of onboarding folks to the asset, it's incredibly smooth. And I'm increasingly really bullish on that model of community banking and sort of like wildcat banking that we used to have in the US in the 1800s, where you would have these small banks that were not mega conglomerates. They were out on the fringes, and each one you just had to evaluate its risk. And they were issuing their own, back in the 1800s, like their own deposits slips. In terms of like the modern model would be that you are trusting that the Bitcoin that you think is on your little Bitcoin Beach wallet that you don't have private keys for is actually there. But I am pretty bullish on that model in terms of adoption for folks who are new to Bitcoin and aren't quite ready for the responsibility of holding their own private keys. So that was my main takeaway is just like this completely alternative way of onboarding people into Bitcoin using Lightning, in which you sort of scaffold and handhold them toward eventually having private keys. But at first, all they need is a phone number.
Yeah. Government wallets, I'm not excited about that either. We'll probably see more of that. But you make a very good point. It's great marketing for freaking Bitcoin. It got the name out there. It became a worldwide story. That was my biggest positive out of the whole thing, because I don't know if I can trust this dude. I mean, he's coming up with this Bitcoin City hype, which is great. That's great. I don't know if they're going to be able to pull it off. I hope they can. Again, it's a government program. I think something we've learned the last 2 years is like government programs are pretty horrific. Even if you're in the greatest country on the planet Earth, they can be pretty horrific. So let's take a spin around the panel again, because you guys are giving me flashbacks from this year, things I hadn't thought of for a while. Adam, do you have anything to say about all the topics that were just brought up? Elon Musk, anything to say about him?
Elon Musk is very frustrating for me. He's like almost there, I think, in a lot of ways. He's his own person, and so like politically and economically, and even with Doge and Bitcoin, I think that he's more, I'll use the phrase actually red pilled, not orange pilled, but he's more like red pilled in that kind of sense, as far as not putting up with a lot of the liberal BS that exists. So I'm happy with Elon as far as that's concerned. And especially, I don't know if you saw his interview with the Wall Street Journal. There was like a CEO panel that was really good.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of overlap with what you were just mentioning with El Salvador putting together their own wallet and making Bitcoin City, making their own Bitcoin community. When a government is smaller, they will typically have better success in pulling off something like that. So El Salvador only has, I think, 7 million people. And for reference, I live in New Jersey. The state of New Jersey has like almost 9 million people. It's like 8.8 million. So I think it's possible that they could pull it off, but that's just because it's a smaller endeavor and it's easier to manage. So, but you're right, Adam. Typically, when the government gets their hands involved in anything, they totally ruin it. And if you haven't seen that firsthand, then you just need to go to the DMV and see it.
Let's intertwine Elon with this and that interview you referenced. I believe he basically said for the government to get out of his way during that interview.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's like that's kind of the typical, conservative or libertarian talking point, just get out of my way. But this, I don't see Elon Musk as a huge ideologue, like where he's really focused on politics and this and that. He's focused on his particular mission, which is getting to Mars, building cities on Mars, fixing transportation issues and problems, fixing other types of infrastructure problems. And that's his mission. And he's the guy of anybody on the face of the earth that would understand government problems. I mean, he was with PayPal and now he's with Tesla, Boring Company, SpaceX, all these different things. Really, the government needs to get out of the way, which is why I'm really happy about Bitcoin, obviously. And really quick about your issue with, the government making a wallet and things like that. And also Reed mentioned people not holding their own private keys. I'm actually becoming more and more okay with not holding my own keys, some of my own keys. And I think for us to, sorry to change topics kind of completely, but I'm starting to get more comfortable with a banking model related to Bitcoin, as long as I can verify that they're solvent and they actually hold the keys. I'm not going to put my whole stash there, but as far as a checking account type of situation, I'm totally comfortable with that. And I think that you're right. Like Bitcoin Beach wallet software, it's not ideal for the cypherpunk ethos or whatever. And I totally get all that. And I'm down with all that. But I think that there should be some level of trying a little bit better to not, sorry about that. Trying to get more people involved and not have to worry about a Jameson Lopp type of model of security.
All right. And, as we get more newbies into the space, they're going to go in that direction. Definitely. I want to say with Elon, again, you bring up what his main points in life are. Remember that, people. Bitcoin isn't high on his list, so don't put him on a pedestal. He's going to say things that are wrong sometimes. This year, he definitely was put on a pedestal. People panicked. I mean, these people come and go. They come and go. 4 years ago, Roger Ver was the biggest name in the space, and now he's a no-name, completely forgotten almost. It's unbelievable. And also something that came out of this year, we're talking about the government. I thought a lot of people thought the slap down was going to come from the regulators. It really didn't happen. It was for all those people who are worshiping the state and wanting the state to do something to Bitcoin. It didn't happen. Lot there was talk, but hey, let's go back to so much we put on the table here. Reed, you jumped in there earlier, but what was your highlight for this year? What was? I mean, you could bring up some of the things we already brought up, but take it away.
Yeah, in terms of a main narrative, I think the El Salvador one is the largest and most important. 2021 or 2020 saw Michael Saylor really advertise Bitcoin for companies, and 2021 saw Bukele advertise it for countries. And yeah, that's massive. I think we're going to start seeing jurisdictional arbitrage play out a lot more, which is just increasingly Bitcoiners, I think, are starting to realize that some places are really free and have low taxes and other places are not. And capital is going to start flowing to the places with low taxes and with freedom of movement. And El Salvador news is playing into that trend. In terms of another main narrative, this year we saw massive inflation, inflation that has sort of been hidden in equities markets and home prices for the last 5-10 years. But we did see CPI finally go up. And CPI is an incredibly manipulated number. So the reading this year, I think, was 6 or 7%. But I think finally a lot of normies started to realize that inflation was happening, and it has been for the last decade. It's just only been going into equities and home prices. Now we're starting to see commodities prices go up, gas prices go up, labor prices go up. On other metrics of inflation, where we were seeing it hit all-time highs this year as well. So M2 money supply went up like 21%, or 13%, sorry. M2 money supply went up 13%. Home prices were up 14%. Commodities were up 29%, and Bitcoin crushed them all. So Bitcoin is up 63% year over year, at least as of this morning. And for me at least, I care an enormous amount about price. I think price is the amalgamation of all information in our system, and the fact that Bitcoin is up more than any other major asset this year, including stocks, much more than gold. Gold is negative. Bitcoin crushed everything. And I think that for me, at least, that's the most important narrative, is that capital and value is flowing into Bitcoin and increasingly flowing into Bitcoin, regardless of what inflation is doing. Bitcoin is sucking capital out of every other asset.
Well, I'm glad you brought up inflation. That was the macro story of the year, no doubt about it. Way beyond Bitcoin, it was noticeable, and it's here. And I guess we'll discuss what inflation will bring in 2022 if the panel still thinks it will be in play. I definitely think they will agree. It probably will be. All right, Deniz, anything else you have to say? We brought up a lot.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are expecting some sort of like hyperinflation scenario to happen in the U.S. I don't necessarily see it happening to the extent that maybe people are hoping, at least in the Bitcoin space, that they're hoping to see it. I mean, it might be like 10%. They might, I don't know. But if you go out there and like buy certain things, you'll notice like 30 to 50% increases. But I don't think we'll see anything like a Venezuelan or a Turkey type of thing.
I got to add here. Yeah, it's kind of sickening that at times it appears that there are people that want there to be hyperinflation in the United States. I don't think they know what that would be a very bad thing if that happened in the United States. I mean, yeah, a scenario of unbelievable destruction. That's just. But I mean, I haven't heard anyone straight up say I want to see it, but you know, it's implied a lot there. And no, here's a prediction: it's not happening. I don't think it's ever going to happen in the United States. But I'm not worried about any hyperinflation. Yeah, inflation is a real darn thing, but it's a totally different animal than hyperinflation. Okay, continue, Deniz. Sorry, just wanted to jump on that point of yours. That just like I don't get why there are some people that sort of want there to be hyperinflation. Bitcoin could do fine without the United States having hyperinflation. Continue, Deniz. Sorry.
No, yeah, I agree. I think you'll see a lot more countries sort of just default to using USD, and then eventually maybe getting into Bitcoin or some of these other meme coins just to outpace the inflation that's going on with the US dollar. So we'll see what happens there. But Hodlberry, Adam brought up with leaving coins on exchanges. I mean, we haven't seen, there were many predictions actually that an exchange would be hacked, like a major hack would happen this year. Nothing was claimed. Maybe there were hacks, but nothing was claimed. So maybe that'll happen in 2022. I don't know, but I'm not going to risk that. That scenario playing out.
I will say this: we can say, there were no hacks this year, but in the larger space, some of this DeFi stuff, they got hacked. I mean, the rug pulls that happen with people throwing all sorts of money into all these DeFi things, they had no clue what they're getting into. There were some major losses over there, and that also it's about not controlling your private key, but on a completely different level. This was not the year of safety in the larger space, to say the least. A lot of people lost a lot of money through some despicable practices by centralized entities, to say that they thought weren't centralized, but that's we should bring up, and Bitcoin doesn't operate in its own little world. I think some people live in the Bitcoin space and don't go outside of the bubble. And we have to say that something big that happened this year is the metaverse, the NFT. And I'll throw this out to the panel, and because I always try to put a positive spin. Could this NFT thing be the mainstream moment? I call it the Netscape moment that brings in so many people to the cryptocurrency space and into Bitcoin eventually. Or is this just another ICO because we during so 2017 and 2021 we gotta agree, both bull markets. No doubt about it. But 2017 we had the ICO thing. So Reed, what do you see the NFTs as ICO 2.0 or as something else? And and is it different this time in terms of the cycle? Is Bitcoin going to are we going to have a down market again like we did last time? That was partially triggered by all of the mania through the outside of Bitcoin stuff, the ICO stuff. So I put a lot of on the table there.
Yeah, my mental model for 2022 and beyond is that NFTs are the ICOs of this cycle, and people are going to get wrecked. That said, if you talk to a lot of folks from 2017, class of 2017, 2018, they came in through ICOs and came in very high time preference, wanting to make a lot of money very quickly, and then realized that ICOs were a scam and ended up settling on Bitcoin. I expect the same thing to happen with NFTs. Folks who are into NFTs now expect to make a lot of money very quickly. They're going to realize that the tide goes out. These markets are incredibly liquid, and they're going to end up getting drawn into Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't need NFTs, but it is, I'd say 20% of NFTs is just going to be marketing for Bitcoin in the long run. 80% of it is total capital destruction and a huge waste of time. But you will see in 2023, 2024, folks who describe their story of getting into Bitcoin as being through NFTs. And that's my perspective.
That's a good long-term or midterm prediction there. I like that. In 2024, we'll be having, when we're having the March 2024 halving party, people will be like, yeah, I remember I got in because I bought some ape, but now I own Bitcoin, or who knows? I'll say this. Well, let's go to Adam here. What's your take on that outside of the Bitcoin space affecting the Bitcoin space? And
Yeah, I've been really brutal on NFTs, and I started trashing Ross Ulbricht for the NFT thing, and I got a lot of flack for that. Like famous people unfollowed me because of that, and that's fine. I have nothing against Ross. I've been supporting him the whole time, but it really is. I think it's worse than ICOs, meaning morally worse than ICOs, because at least other coins purportedly tried to solve particular problems. So they were saying, Bitcoin can't scale 2017. So we need, we need Bitcoin Cash, or we need Litecoin, or we need this other coin to do more payments. And so they were purporting to actually solve real issues, even though I personally believe you can scale effectively on Bitcoin 2 and 3 layer solutions, and that really the hard money asset is the problem that Bitcoin solves. With NFTs, there really are just beanie babies. Like they don't actually solve any other problem other than supposed collection, collectibles and ownership of things. And I personally believe that all intellectual property is bunk. Like that shouldn't be a thing. Like I don't think that people's ideas should be ownable, or words should be ownable, or even music should be ownable. So when I look at NFTs, I think people are only into them because they're easy to create. There's some kind of collectible that people think are going to be valuable, like baseball cards. And I have news for you. I collected baseball cards, thousands and thousands of them, baseball, hockey, basketball, football cards, from the time I was 4 years old till they just ended up in my garage as an adult. None of them are worth anything at all unless they're super, super rare and have some kind of super significance. So somebody's crazy, stupid ape thing is not going to have any significance to anybody, and therefore it's not going to be worth a single dime, 2, 3, 4 years from now. So I think Reed's right as far as it is good marketing, and people will get wrecked and then go into it. And when we say capital destruction, it's actually recapital allocation from from the dumb to the smart. But as somebody who got into Bitcoin because of the ICO and my first thing I ever bought was Ethereum, whatever how you say it. I think at like $12, and I doubled my money, thought I was the smartest person in the world, and sold out. So you will definitely get into it, but then once you get orange pilled a little bit better to realize what we're actually trying to accomplish here in the quote unquote crypto space, which is the separation of money from the state and the goodness, the making money actually morally and ethically good, you'll just get rid of the beanie babies and just, if you want to, you want to collect something, go after Mickey Mantle rookie cards or something like that. That's would be a much better usage of your throwaway money.
Yeah, you make me think about the 1989 tops. You know, that people
Oh,
thought
yeah.
that was that it was cool, but there were so many of them they didn't end up. Anyway, it wasn't very worth much at the end. Okay, good talk right there. I want to jump off of NFT. We can talk about that another time. And I want to since I got you here, is the environmental story? Was that a huge story this year, and will it be bigger in next year? Environmental FUD, basically.
Oh, me again? Well, it's funny. My father-in-law mentioned the environmental FUD to me during, what was it? Some birthday party we had a couple weeks ago. And he's a normie, uninitiated person. And it came up in his feed and in his consciousness, and he was interested in it because that's like the mainstream narrative story. Yeah. I think that's something we need to definitely combat and show people how it's actually an efficient use of energy and a strengthening to the central grid by finding stranded energy, building out infrastructure to harness energy. So as far as like a negative thing, you're going to see negative publicity as far as Bitcoin is bad for the environment or whatever, but it's actually probably one of the best things that could possibly happen to the environment because of the long-term effects.
I say this as a prediction. It will be the biggest FUD of 2022. They're going to ramp it up. The haters of Bitcoin,
sure.
The people who don't think, the people who love the ESG narrative and want the whole world to shut down. It's going to be a really big talking point.
Well, especially if COVID magically goes away, or like Omicron kind of wipes everybody out, or gets everybody infected, and there's no more major virus kind of situation. Then it's like. People who have been in the COVID kind of conscious space, they've already seen there. It's going to be a seamless transition for world leaders to say you need to be locked down because of COVID, and now you need to be locked down because you're killing the environment. With crying Native Americans. That kind of commercial. If you remember that commercial. Yeah. So you're definitely going to see the once COVID kind of stops, the climate change thing is going to ramp back up.
I agree. It's a seamless transition. They gotta where everyone's a worrywart these days. You got to virtue signal about something. I mean, how about those cute little seals that are done? I mean, yeah, it'll be pretty easy, and that's why this is a bigger story than Bitcoin. We got to attack it at its root. That advancing in the world using power is a good thing, and we don't need to shut down the world to save the seals. Let's try to improve humanity here. Deniz, what do you think that's going to be big FUD in 2022?
Oh yeah, for sure. Most likely. Usually when someone comes up to me or reaches out personally and asks about, isn't Bitcoin like terrible for the environment, or its carbon footprint is so huge, I don't know, it's killing countries or something. I don't know. Whenever they come to me with that, I usually just ask them, do you know how much energy is being used with the current system you're using with banking or with your car or every new laptop or every new phone you get? It's just, I don't know. It's all trivial in my opinion. But I pretty much just bring up that if you don't know how much energy is being used for the things you use daily, your point is, it's useless. It's like you haven't done the research. So I don't know.
Christmas lights. Why don't we ban Christmas lights?
Yeah, right. I mean, personally, it's just sort of like if you don't get it by now, it's like, okay, that's fine. You don't have to buy it.
Now, I want to get Reed's take on this, but something that is being twisted into the environmental narrative, and a reason why I think it's going to be the biggest FUD is because we're also seeing all these coins. Well, one in particular is going to switch to proof of stake, and I think Bitcoin's going to be a unique beast because it's proof of work for life, baby. Okay. And that'll be something that differentiates it. It's not going to give in to all the nonsense out there. But what we're going to hear is all these proof of stake fans are just, look, we're doing it the right way. They're killing the environment. So that's something that started to percolate this year, definitely, that I think is going to be bigger next year. proof of stake versus proof of work, and everybody's screaming that proof of stake is the answer and proof of work is you're a killer or something like that. Reed, your take on the environment and FUD.
Yeah, I come from a very environmental family. Actually, my dad ran a new Nature Conservancy chapter for 35 years. I studied environmental science and earth science in college. I taught geology for many years and environmental science, and now work in the Bitcoin space. So this issue in particular was really hard for me personally to get over. Bitcoin totally changes your worldview on many things, and for me, I had the most roadblocks with the environmental stuff. At this point, I no longer really try to engage very much with defending Bitcoin's environmental usage, or even pointing out the flaws and how much energy other sectors use, pointing out that the Federal Reserve and the existing banking system uses XYZ amount of energy, because that's sort of falling into their framing. And personally now I try and use the same sorts of arguments, Adam, that you used, pointing out that energy is directly correlated with human flourishing, and the more energy we can capture and use, the better human life is. And that tends to be my approach now. But most of my sort of pre-Bitcoin network and friend group is within this environmental space. So it's a challenge for me. And I think that in 2021, we've just seen the tip of the iceberg in terms of how much environmental FUD is going to happen. And same prediction that you have, Adam, I expect a lot more in 2022 and beyond.
I wanted to jump on that real quick. So it's interesting because I come from like the politically and personally background. I come from the opposite end of the spectrum. Like, I wouldn't say like I was anti-environmentalist, but I come from a traditional, Republican parents with like a Christian background. Okay. So like that's, in like Rush Limbaugh world or whatever, there's like one versus the other. Mm-hmm. But I don't see that dichotomy anymore. I don't see somebody who is a conservative. I'm not really consider myself a conservative, more of a libertarian, but I don't consider myself a non-environmentalist. Like I want to intentionally pollute things. It's like, I think that what you said was increased energy usage in the world is better for humans in the long term. Like nobody wants to breathe terrible air or swim in crappy water. And so it's like a false dichotomy between can we have a clean environment and can we have human flourishing? Well, like the ultimate thing would be yes. I would like both of those things. And as somebody who's a Christian, I care deeply about the environment because I don't believe it's my environment. I don't think it's amoral. I think it's ethical thing to be environmentally conscious. And so how can we reframe the conversation from like you're using so many tons of carbon, you're polluting with so many tons of carbon per day or per minute, and like what is the ultimate goal here, which is human flourishing and in a healthy relationship with our environment, like both literally like the world environment and our how we're personally living in our own space. Trying to reframe it. I'm not sure too much work has been done with that yet. So I would like to see somebody write something on that, like why Bitcoin will actually be better for the environment in the future because we'll be in spaceships or whatever. All that. That meme picture with like the Jetsons. Like why once we get there, like Bitcoin will get us there, and that will be better for the environment.
I think you bring up a very good point too. That's come up over at least the second half of this year, that Bitcoin is not just a left-right thing. I mean, it's not political. It shouldn't be political. Now, there are some people that still, because the first people that were into it generally were libertarian types, they try to classify it. Well, if you like Bitcoin, then you like what the libertarians believe in. Thus,
or alt-right.
Yeah, exactly. You're a terrorist, or I mean, it's unbelievable. But I think one of the things I hope for 2022 is a more open-minded approach to the people coming into Bitcoin. That they're going to be from the left. They're going to see it can help us too, and then people saying, I'm not for the destruction of the environment. I think I am an environmental fan, but I can still like Bitcoin and take it up a notch and say, we're going to get to this technological stage in our life. Because of Bitcoin, we're not going to even be able to be on the earth anymore. We're going to move off the earth. It'll be a nature preserve. But I mean, that's what technology is all about moving on and progression and innovation. In order to have innovation, you got to. It's got to be powered by something. But innovation usually cures a lot of problems. And I got to say, to Reed, you are definitely a unique beast. Fitting in is overrated, and I know of people that come from. And I think it's good that you've given us your perspective from the background that you have, from this traditional environmental background, and pointed out that it might be difficult at times to deal with some of what you're so used to and what your peer group is talking about. But hey, I mean, in the end of the day, fitting in is overrated. Be a unique beast. You don't have to defriend them. That's another thing. I want to point out. Don't let it ever get personal with people. We have something here in Bitcoin called the Bitcoin Inquisition, where there's some people that you say Ethereum, you're not their friend anymore. It's unbelievable. But people, it's not a religion. It's nothing should be taken to some of these levels that some people are taking in life today. Anyway, we've gotten beyond the topics right here. And I just want to point out that we got people in the chat. $5 from the great Craig Shipp. He says, pound that like button, buy and hold Bitcoin. Thank you, Craig. Thank you for all the support over the years. And I want to say there's one dude out there that sent me this before the show. Update, having my first kid. It's a boy, and he owns 1 Bitcoin already. Now that is some long-term thinking, dude. Buying your kid a Bitcoin before he's even born, planning it out like that. I give you a lot of credit. That little boy will be happy in 2022 and beyond. 2028 halving, 2032 halving for that little kid. He'll be loving life with you. All right. So I think we've talked about everything that happened this year. No, we haven't. But I just want to say 210,000 block rule theory, whatever you want to call it, it's still in effect. That's something that came out of this year. You can subtract 210,000 blocks from any day, including this day, and Bitcoin is worth more than it was 210,000 blocks ago. And so one would think that 210,000 blocks from now, if you're watching this show in 2025 or whenever it is, you'll be quite happy. Bitcoin will be more than $47,000, whatever it is right now. But I do want to say I didn't get Deniz to chime in on all the things that we. Before we go to predictions here, Deniz, is there anything else you have to say about 2021 and important stories and what we've been talking about with the environment and everything?
No, not too much. The environmental FUD comes with everything. The whole point of the FUD is so that you stay home and do nothing. That's the whole point of this. So if anything good is happening, they're just going to say, oh, that's not environmentally friendly. You shouldn't be doing that. Stay home. Do nothing. Live off the government. It's pretty straightforward agenda right there. But if people don't see that, I don't know what to tell them. They'll find out the hard way, I guess.
In motion. You're in motion. It's been a great opportunity these last 2 years when a lot of people have just stopped doing stuff. The people who are actually doing things have done very well for themselves. So I encourage everyone. I expect in 2022 more people to go back to work to get out of this trance, but there'll still be plenty of people compared to 2019 that are just like, no, I don't do anything anymore, and I'm just waiting for the government to give me some command on what's the next thing to worry about. So that's less competition. Compete, don't complain, guys. There's going to be still a lot of complainers out there in 2022. That's a prediction of mine. So something that some people thought was going to happen in 2021 that did not happen. 6-digit realm. We didn't get to $100,000. So Deniz, since I was just talking with you, is this going to be the year of it? Or are we or is this the year that we go down again? Are we going to follow the cycle? If we follow the cycle, we are at the beginning of a downturn right now.
I'm not too sure. From my TA perspective, it's going to be 58K forever. But if we do get back to 69 I think we're in an elongated cycle, basically. So we'll see how that plays out. It looks like it's happening, but I don't know. Bitcoin's going to do whatever it wants to do.
Yeah,
But
when a lot of people reach 69, they're pretty elongated and they're 420 it, and 69, 420. Who knows? I've heard all these numbers. Continue, Deniz. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if Michael Saylor is going to be right. I mean, he wasn't necessarily right about no more 50% drawdowns because we had China happen, but maybe he'll be right in terms of it will be less volatile. But I don't know. It's pretty. You can note it. You notice it on Twitter too. It's like, oh, everything's so boring, but this is supposed to be like the exponential like peak year compared to the other ones, but it's boring. So I don't know. I think the volatility has gone down a bit.
People get bored too easily is one of my things. I'm never freaking bored. I mean, it was a great year. It's a great year. So we're going to have a plan B, plan C, plan D. Plan B, I'm referencing it. Didn't, his chart that some people worship. Again, the worshiping that goes on in this space sometimes. I mean, it wasn't the freaking 10 Commandments, for God's sake. Sorry. All right, so I got Reed laughing here. What's going on? I think it was Reed that was laughing. I hear somebody.
Yeah, Bitcoin will break all your mental models. And I think a lot of people this year clung too tightly to Plan B's model and got wrecked. They had long dated call options and those call options expired worthless. I'm fully expecting the same type of model wrecking to happen in 2022. It seems like now increasingly the main narrative is the 4-year cycles are over. So 6 months ago, the expectation was 100,000. Now people are like, who knows? It may go sideways. And so I expect 6 months from now, we're going to wreck that model. So my personal mental model is we go flat for 6 months and everyone's convinced that 4-year cycles are over. And then we go parabolic and rip everyone's faces off.
I'd love that.
I've got some hearsay as a predictions, and my listeners, watchers have heard me say this before. I think there's a lot of all sorts of semi-dumb money, institutional money, who knows what, holding back, waiting for this metaverse thing to even take off more. A lot of things, a common theme throughout the show has been marketing. El Salvador was great marketing for Bitcoin, okay? Who knows how, what's going to really happen down there in the long term, but it's great marketing. I really think, although some people despise it, the metaverse stuff is great marketing for Bitcoin. Even though it's totally different. I get it. It's not even money. But I think when the Ethereum 2.0 is pulled, I think it's going to get pulled off in Q2 or Q3. I think that is going to be the trigger for a Bitcoin spike. I think that is going to do it. I know it's hearsay to a lot of people, but it might not make sense. Ethereum isn't money. Ethereum. I think it's going to cause a lot of excitement, a lot of FOMO of people that have they don't understand the difference, because most people, we're talking about the 4-year cycle. They don't know what a Bitcoin halving is. Okay. And most people that are buying these NFTs and metaverse stuff, they don't know what Ethereum 2.0 is. I mean, they just pile in and they don't know what proof of work or proof of stake is. They pile in when the hype gets, when it gets frothy, okay? And something that can trigger something like that is this for the people who do know what Ethereum 2.0 is. When it does happen, people will pump it up. And I think it will, I think the Bitcoin cycle is going to get intertwined with this Ethereum thing. And it's not really a cycle anymore. So I guess that's a bold prediction for me for 2022. I still believe in the 210,000 block theory that anytime you take 210,000 blocks, Bitcoin is going to be worth more in 210,000 blocks. But I think we're going to have some spike in 2022. I don't think it's going to be a bear market. But what are some things we got to worry about in 2022? And what are some highlights for 2022, Adam?
Well, I think we're gonna hit six figures in 2022, but I'm really I'm very optimistically bullish all the time for the most part. I think that what I'm expecting really is another kind of black swan type of event, whether it's not Omicron, but maybe some kind of debt default or some other kind of massive government, just crap in the bed in some way that triggers something. I'm expecting interest rates around the world to go up. And so that could put huge amount of pressure on real estate and equities. And I don't know if that money flows into Bitcoin or if that just money evaporates and then, everybody's poor and everybody's got to sell out of their Bitcoin position to cover their loans or credit cards or whatever else. So I think it could go either way. And I don't think 2022 is going to be boring. I think there's going to be some crazy stuff. I mean, if you think about even back to this year, like just the stuff that's happened this year alone, you just can't even, you wouldn't have fathomed it the year before. So I know we're going to have an interesting year.
You read my mind because I was going to ask the panel, do you think this 2022 could we have another March 2020 type of moment where there's just a huge, unpredictable panic event? And I'm not going to say that's going to happen, but everyone should have learned their lesson from that and be prepared and not to have a weak hand. You don't know on a worldwide level what can happen these days. What news story could be made up? I mean, I've thrown this out there before. A big thing that could happen in 2022 is that the president of the United States could suddenly no longer be the president of the United States anymore. Now, and that will cause some people to do crazy things with their money. I mean, depending on what exactly happened. I mean, and that might not happen. I mean, there could be a scenario where the president of the United States isn't the president anymore, and then the vice president doesn't become president. That would be a very big story. That would shake the confidence of many people. Now, you could go over all sorts of theoretical black swan things that are out there. I'm throwing that out there because of all the things, he's an old dude. I mean, it could happen, but how bad it could happen is up to everyone's imagination. So I just want to Bitcoin is very liquid. People, when they need money, as we saw in 2020, they could sell it any time of night, any time of day, just turn it into whatever fiat nonsense they needed and think that they helped themselves, when in the long run, that it was terrible to sell that. Horrible nightmare. For me, of course, I bought 2 Bitcoin during that thing, and that was incredibly awesome. Yeah. The rich get richer. Pound that like button. So, Reed, Dennis.
Congratulations, Adam. I'm glad you bought 2 Bitcoin. During March 2020, I lost my job and was door dashing, working 2 different restaurant jobs, trying to stack as much as possible. I'm going to tell you this, Reed. I knew when everyone was on March the 12th and 13th, I already knew the thing was nonsense. What you have to remember is there's a day after tomorrow. I knew there was going to be a 2022 and 2020. I mean, there's some people that are shocked we're actually going to have a new year. I mean, people are still, but I knew the government was going to write us checks. I knew that day, and I knew I was going to spend my check. I didn't know how much it was going to be. What did it end up being? How much did we get from the government eventually?
I got $8,400 because I have 4 kids.
Pound that like button for being fruitful and multiplying there. Wow, I knew I was going to get something, and I spent it immediately. I spent $10,000 over a 36-hour period on 2 Bitcoin that are now worth $100,000. So I mean, everyone's in a dip. Everyone's got a little bit of cash to the side just in case of an emergency. That was my thing, but I knew I was going to get reimbursed. I knew the government was going to give me $3,000 or whatever the heck they ended up giving us. Do you see black swans? Predict, Dennis, black swans, anything?
Well, first of all, kudos to everyone on this panel for continuing to stack, no matter what the circumstance. Good job, Reed. Black swans, I mean, it could be aliens or something ridiculous. It could be, I don't know, we make contact at that point and people will freak out and sell the stock market at that point. But I mean, despite any black swan, just put yourself in a position to never be forced to sell your Bitcoin. I mean, if you need to do it for like getting your first house or something, go for it, but do not get yourself in a situation where you're forced to sell.
That's very good advice. Okay, Reed, you've got a lot to say. Predictions, black swans.
Just following up on what Deniz says, you do not ever want to be forced liquidation. So that means don't leverage up too much. If you do choose to leverage up in any capacity, make sure that that you're paying back that loan in dollars and you don't have a liquidation price for it. So you just, worst case scenario is that Bitcoin is going to $1 million and then the price drops 50% and you sell, or you're forced to sell some of yours. So if you do have to leverage up, like just take out a USD loan in order to do it. Don't back your loan with Bitcoin collateral. In terms of predictions for 2022, my sort of mental model for the 2020s is just increasing volatility through the middle of the decade, and then sort of hyper Bitcoinization by the end of the decade, and then more stability back then. So I think 2022 is going to be slightly crazier than 2021. I have no idea what that means. I personally don't expect major economic, like a recession or similar to what we had in 2020. But who knows, could happen. I think the important thing is to just remain incredibly liquid in Bitcoin itself. Don't leverage up too much. And then increasingly set your life up so that you're living in a place that values freedom, and that you have the freedom to leave that place if necessary with your Bitcoin. I think in worldwide, we saw increased border controls, increased capital controls in 2020 and 2021. I expect that trend to continue in 2022. In the US, we saw increased balkanization in terms of some states pushing back against the federal government and other states going much further in terms of authoritarian policies than the federal government. I expect the same to continue. California will become increasingly disparate and different from Florida in terms of policies and culture. And I expect that trend to continue. So, I would just think this year and next year about where you want to weather out potentially increasing volatility in the next 5 years, and make moves to put yourself physically in that place and also financially in that place.
And we were talking about inflation before. Do you see inflation continuing?
I do personally. I know that there are some deflationists like Ansel Lindner. Lindner expects deflation to kick in. I think that the central banks will continue printing and manipulating interest rates to produce more money. And I expect that money then to flow into other sectors of the economy. Typically right now, the primary way that money is created in the US is via loans. And as long as you have a non-inverted yield curve, then loan creation happens in the US. And we have a non-inverted yield curve. And so we're going to have loan creation happening, which is creating money. I don't think we'll see another recession until that loan creation stops and the yield curve flips and inverts again.
Really good point about being able to be in motion easily. Don't get tied down to certain states because you don't know when you're going to have to pick up and go. That's why I call owning a house an attack vector, because you're tied down. I mean, you got to. I mean, it's hard to just sell your house and leave like that. I love going from state to state, Airbnb to Airbnb. But I mean, if you have kids, then that's an attack vector also. You can't just drag your kids everywhere. So keep in mind, people were making life-altering decisions like that. And also remember, you brought up the 2020s as a decade. Yes, we're entering 2022, but we are already in this golden age of a decade. There's going to be a 2023. There's going to be a 2024. It's so excited. If 2022 lets you down, don't worry. You're going to have a 2023. There's always a day after tomorrow. There's always, the world doesn't end. That mentality hurt a lot of people in 2020. They just thought this was the end all, the beat. Things aren't ever going to get back to normal in any way in my mind, or I gotta hunker down forever and ever. That you don't want to be on the defensive like that. You gotta. There's progress. The world continues. Time does not stop. Remember that, people. Time does not stop. All right. Let's see. Adam, anything you have to say about predictions, prices, anything 2022 and beyond?
No, I think I agree with Reed. I hope that he's right.
All right. Ed, you're of do you think things are going to get worse in California? Just want to get that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. One thing that I think is interesting, though, you're right. Houses are an attack vector, and it's interesting. I heard it was Charlie Munger, or was it Warren Buffett, when somebody asked him on a Berkshire Hathaway investor meeting call. I think they were just like taking random questions. They said, "When should I buy a house? Like, when's the right time to buy a house?" And the correct answer was, "Whenever your wife wants a house." And that's kind of how I live my life, which is, going from Airbnb to Airbnb is very difficult. And so I homeschool my 4 kids, so I have a little bit easier. But I do agree with the idea that you should be agile in your finances and in your. I think being mentally agile is the biggest thing, because you could leave your house and then have a realtor go and just pack everything up and ship it to you or whatever. So you just need to be mentally ready to go if you need to go. And Bitcoiners should definitely understand that a lot, I think.
Yeah, owning a house is only an attack vector if it's the only way you store value. If it's a tiny fraction of the value that you store, and most of it is in Bitcoin, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it's just a utility. It's just a good that you consume and use.
You see, but the thing is, in the United States right now, most dudes that are owning houses buy it for their wife. You're absolutely right. Buy it for the kids, and are in an incredible amount of debt, so they just can't walk away. I mean, there's a lot of things tying them down, and they want to fit in. It's not, you want to have the white picket fence, and send the kids to private school or the nice public school. They don't want to leave that district, even though now it's the best district in the state, and it's right to leave, even though the taxes are going up. And how could I do that? And I've got all these friends, and you just have all these things tying you down. Deniz, you're in a state that's not exactly free. So what do you think about the concept of being able to just pick up and go?
Yeah, New York is pretty bad. It's super bad. It's terrible. It's comparable to California because, well, maybe it's not as bad as California, but the weather, I don't know. At least you have nice weather out in California.
Exactly. No, you're right. You're right.
But I think it's gonna get worse. It might bleed out into like neighboring states. But if you go outside the cities, it's definitely more manageable to do the things you want to do normally. So I say, get away from the cities as far as you can, whenever you get the chance.
I want to say one thing about the Airbnb lifestyle that I've continued uninterrupted during this entire thing. I've met real people. I see what's really going on in this country, and I think Adam alluded to it, or maybe it was Reed. I forgot. Yeah, it's 2 different countries now. It's unbelievable. It really is. Like here in Bowling Green, Kentucky, no one's worried about masks, this, that, the other. Scared they're going to get this, that. I mean, but I go back to Baltimore. I go back to the East Coast. The Northeast Coast. Oh my Lord! I mean, the fear and that's where the media is based. So the national news more, reflects, the coasts. And dude, being in Miami, such a freaking pleasure. That I spent so much time there of all the cities. That's where I spent the most time in 2021. And I'll be back in April. Well, I'll be in March. I'm going back. And dudes, just if you've been cooped up in your house for 2 years, just get in your car and drive. If you're scared of planes, then just get in your car. Okay, you shouldn't be scared of planes. They're safe. I've been on planes nonstop also. I bought a car to travel across the country. West Virginia was great. I'm going to Arkansas next week. I'll be in Fayetteville. I mean, these are the real people aren't scared of these places. It is great. We got 2 different countries here. It's really weird. It's really whack. I'll be in Texas. But dude, if you're not satisfied with what your state right now, where you're living, there's 50 different experiments, and everything's sad and depressed. It's not. There's so many. Dallas was freaking awesome. Miami was awesome. So speaking about that, Adam, are you going to be in Miami on in April for the Bitcoin conference? Link to below. Use the discount code Adam10 to get there, or click on.
I have my ticket. I have my ticket, and I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Actually, I have my place booked, my ticket. I have babysitting ready to go. I'm ready to. I just need to get a new bathing suit, and I'm there.
All right. I also need a new bathing suit, and I needed one for so long. I mean, it's like rotting, the darn thing. I don't go swim. Oh, I love to swim as a kid. Okay, tangent there. Reed, you're not going to be in Miami, though, are you?
I won't. No, my whole team. I work for a company called Swan Bitcoin. The whole team goes down. Yep. I run customer support for them, and so I work like crazy during that weekend. So unfortunately, I will not be down in Miami. But I had a blast. Jealous of you guys.
We had a blast at the Swan. I think I'm speaking for these guys. Yeah. Did you two also have fun in the Swan Bitcoin tent?
Spent a lot of time in there.
That was 1,000,000 degrees. Oh my Lord! And I got on one of the shows there. I was cooking in the sun, baby. Oh, it was. But no, it was all the Swan guys besides you. Yeah, they were cool. They were there. But that's all right. Not everybody can come on down. The Swan guys, they represent real nice, and it's been a pleasure having them on the show over the last 2 years. And in 2022, they all will return. Best freaking guest in the space. They're doing good things over there. They really, I mean, over the last 2 years, you guys have done a great job. You know, coming from nothing to just your social networking, intertwining yourself in the Bitcoin community has been great. Read all the dudes over there. So yeah, Swan will be there again. So that's awesome. They'll have a tent, I assume. And, or who knows, maybe it'll be a different setup. It's going to be in Miami Beach this year instead of at that other neighborhood we were in, and whatever that was called in Miami. Interesting neighborhood. Anyway, Deniz, you're going to be down in Miami. And that's another thing for you people stuck on the East Coast, taking vacations to Miami, that helps, let off some steam, right? Right, Deniz?
Yeah, no plans right now, but I'll let you know. I'll let you know if I go this year. Last time was last minute. This time might be last minute too. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
All right. I warn all you last minute people. Adam is correct. He was good that he already booked his place, because if you don't, it ends up, the Airbnbs end up a lot of money. It is quite expensive for other reasons down. Everyone's going to Miami, man. It's fun. It's just you can feel it in the air. If you're in one of those cities that it's just sad and depressing, dude, it'll wake you right up. And just be in motion in 2022, people. That's my recommendation. Okay, we will get closing remarks from anyone, from all the team here, all the guys, best guests in the space. Any stories that were left out, any final predictions, any things that you're working on that you want to promote. We'll start with Adam.
I'm not really doing too much Bitcoin specifically in the space. A month ago, I wrote an article that made its way into Bitcoin Magazine. It was a response article to another Christian non-Bitcoiner's take on Bitcoin. So you can check that out. That's my pinned tweet right now at Hodlberry. And I'm planning to do more writing and just more hanging out with other Bitcoiners this year. So nothing major going on.
Hanging out in person, dude. It's real. Pound that like button. All 3 of those dudes are linked to below that have been on the show today. So follow all of them on Twitter. And read his story in Bitcoin Magazine. It is pinned. I noticed that pinned at the top also, because I always check out these dudes' Twitters beforehand. You treat them like web pages, Twitter feeds, dudes. That's what I do. You learn a lot that way. Deniz, any final thoughts? Anything you're up to? Oh, you mentioned Coinbeast, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Guys, check out CoinBeast if you get the chance. There's a lot of Bitcoin content on there. I add stuff. The team there is great. Adam's part of the team. But But yeah, and thank you, Adam, for having me on. It's always a pleasure. It's pretty much a privilege, but thank you. And shout out to 58K gang for destroying Plan B's model. I really appreciate them. Thanks, guys.
I want to say about, well, first of all, you, Deniz, you're in motion. Over these last few years, when people weren't jumping on opportunities, you kept on jumping on opportunities and kept getting, earning more and being more prominent in the space. You were just a regular dude, sending me DMs. And then I on the show, I would bring up job opportunities, whatever. You would jump on them. And I mean, you're the prototype, man. Guys, there's so many opportunities in this space, and Deniz definitely is living the life because of the opportunities, the easy opportunities he jumped on. And Coin Beast, now you can buy the unique Beast shirt that I wear. It's linked to below. Coin Beast, it's somewhere in the links. Check out all the links. You could buy Coin Beast merchandise now. That was awesome that they did that, and people love when I wear the Coin Beast shirts or any of these. All sorts of shirts are linked to below. I've got who knows how many shirts I have? 70 shirts. Keep sending them my way. I love it. I'm the fashion model here. And the last word for 2021 will come from Reed. So take it away.
Well, first of all, Deniz, congratulations at pinning the Bitcoin price at 58,000 for multiple weeks at a time. Great job. coming from nothing, and now you are moving markets. People can reach me at Reed Womack on Twitter, at Reed Womack, or I work for Swan Bitcoin Support. So if you have questions about Swan or your account, you can write to us at support@swanbitcoin.com. So that's how folks can reach me. In terms of review of 2020 and predictions for 2022, we've covered 2021 well. For 2022, I'm very excited to just keep continuously lowering my time preference and destroying all my mental models of what I think about Bitcoin, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Wow, that's a good way to end it. Keep an open mind, people. Keep on learning. Don't join a cult. Don't treat it like a cult. And there's all sorts of great people out there. I try to bring you the best freaking guests in the space. I'll bring in new people in 2022. I'm excited for 2022. Of course, I'm excited for everything all the darn time. Dudes, turn on UK BitcoinMeister. His show is starting right now, so go over there. Say hi to him. I'm going to go say hi to him. If you got a double header, if you need another show. Everybody have a happy new year. Have a great weekend. We did this show on a Thursday instead of a Friday. So Shabbat Shalom starting tomorrow night. Have a great New Year's Shabbos, whatever you want to call it, dudes. I will see you next week, which is next year. But have a freaking strong hand, everybody. Pound that like button. I'm Adam Meister, BitcoinMeister, Disrupt Meister. See you next year. Thanks a lot. Click on all the links below. Follow all these guys. Thanks, guests. You all were awesome. See ya. Bye-bye. Yeah. All right. Ended that. And
Hodlberry. I just want